Hi and welcome back. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sewjo, and this is my channel where I talk about all my quilty stitchy things. And today is my weekly update, number 47. It is January 7th, 2024. It's a new year, and this is actually my first video of the new year. So I didn't have a weekly update last week like I had said. Now, I had planned on not doing the weekly update to just spend some time with family. However, universe had some other plans, and COVID got a hold of me, and yeah, it's been a bunch of sicky stuff around here. But I think I'm on the mend finally, and I have lots to show since it's been 2 weeks, and actually the last one I was just starting to get that COVID, so I didn't show a lot. So I've got lots to show today. So let's get started with what did I quilt. Now I've only got one thing quilted, but let me show you what it is. We'll hang it up. And this is what I quilted on the long arm. Now this is the Vintage Christmas by Lori Holt. So I got it quilted. So all I have to do is bind it now. Now, when I was quilting this just the other day, I had about 2 more rows left to be done. And I was finished that row. And when I went to clip the thread, my hand accidentally brushed against the touch screen. And when it did, it changed the setting on the touch screen, because I usually only use 2 of the settings, which is the basting and the regulate for the stitch regulator. But when I did it, it changed it, I think, to coast regulate or something, and the needle started going crazy and bouncing up and down on my quilt. Now, because I was getting ready to snip thread, I wasn't right there on the handles to turn it off. So before I got a chance to turn it off, the thread got tangled down in the bobbin hook area, which ended up breaking the needle, and it blew a fuse and turned it off. So at first I was like, okay, it's just a blown fuse, no big deal. I can fix the fuse. So I fixed the fuse, but the problem was the presser foot area was no longer going up and down. So I had to take the bobbin out and looked, and sure enough, there was thread all tangled up into the hook area, and it was a pain trying to get that out. Matter of fact, I couldn't get it out. I even ended up, because like I said, the long arm is at my parents' house, so I ended up having my dad come down, see if he could help me get the thread out, because it was all tangled up there. Well, eventually got the thread out, and we could move it a little bit, but it was getting stuck. So couldn't figure out what. Although I knew that even though the needle broke, I couldn't find the end of the needle. It wasn't in the quilt. It wasn't anywhere. So I was thinking maybe the needle was stuck down there in the hook, which we couldn't find. And so I ended up having to call my husband to come out and get it. And luckily he could fix it, and that was the problem. The end of the needle had broke off through all of it, and it was stuck down in the hook. And then once we dislodged it, long arms working fine. So my husband saved us a repair bill. And I was able to get it quilted. We'll go ahead and take a look at the quilting pattern in a minute. But what is quilted on it is little hats and mittens and stockings. I wasn't sure what I wanted to quilt on it, but I went with that simply because there's stockings, there's a mitten block over there, and there's a hat somewhere in there. So let's take a closer look at it. All right, let's see. You can start to see some mittens right there. And there's the hat. Oh, and there's a stocking right there. Let's go up. And kind of see, oh, and there's a hat block. So that's what I decided to quilt all over it, was the mittens, the hat, and the stockings, just because those blocks were already in it. Let me go back and see if I can zoom out a little bit. So there's the top. Going on down. And we'll flip it over and take a look at that piece backing. And there's a look at the piece backing I had done. Stockings sticking out. Now, before I start talking about my quilt tops I finished, I wanted to see if I could try to give you a better view of the piece backing for this vintage Christmas quilt. Just bringing it up. So that's a little bit better view of what the backing looks like. So my last weekly update, I said that that I know I had finished a total of 24 at least quilts. How many I quilted? I know I quilted more than that because I still got a pile over there that needs to be binding. And I quilted some for my mom and some other people. So this year, I thought I would kind of keep track of how many quilts I quilted, how many quilt tops I made, and how many I actually finished, meaning put the binding on. So I've started that. So I quilted one. One so far. However, I am going to set a personal goal for myself. I want to try and quilt 50 quilts this year. We'll see if it happens, but I'm going to give it a go. See if I can get there. So I managed to finish 3 quilt tops. So this is the first one. And this is a half pack quilt that I had bought in a quilt shop from some shop hops where they have like 5 half-yard packs and you get a free pattern. Now I can't really show you that pattern because it has all the dimensions and stuff all over it. But this is what it looks like. It's basically 2 different blocks that you put in any configuration that you want, and then you take some extra strips, sew them together, and make borders around it. I'll give you a closer look in a minute. Now, I'm not a particular fan of how this came out, but that's okay. All right, we'll go ahead and take a closer look at it. Now this was done with all batiks, so 5 half-yard cuts of batiks. Now I do like the colors, I just don't like the pattern, how it all worked together. And this is the second quilt top I finished. Now I know the top of it's cut off, but I'll show you the top of it in a minute. Now this was from a sew sampler box, and it was the Summit quilt pattern, and this measures 48.5 by 48.5. So we'll just take a look at it. And it's a pretty small quilt. And this is the third top I finished, and this was from a pattern called Double Take, and this was from a kit basically that I got at Polar Fabrics that had like 5 one-yard cuts, and then you got a free pattern. And this is what it looks like. Take a closer look. There's the top coming down. And there it is. Okay, so now let's talk about all the piecing progress I'm working on. So, I worked on this Moncherie quilt pattern. And I have all of these. Just got the ends pinned on to take and sew. And the heart blocks back here. I have the heart blocks done, and I've got them pinned with that centerpiece there. And that's where I'm working on that, and then I can start throwing all that together. So we've worked on that. What we've also worked on, or what I worked on, is this pattern from Viola Rosa. And this, I'm using some dinosaur fabric, and this was a kit that I had bought at Tree City Stitches over in Indiana at a shop hop. I think it was almost a year ago now. But I've got these started to pin together to make 4 patches. So it will go together like that. to make a bunch of 4 patches and sew them together. And there's my stack of all that pinned together, ready to sew. Okay, and I've got lots more to show y'all. Worked on that. Let's go in here. And I've worked on another sew sampler project. Well, pretty much got cut it out. Got the first steps pinned together. And this is the Daydreams quilt pattern. It's a sew sampler project. And I have it all cut out. And I've started to get it pinned together. I've got the start of a bunch of flying geese there to make. And these all put together for some half square triangles. And I did not buy the finishing kit for this. I just used fabric that was in my stash. So I needed an accent fabric and a border fabric. So I picked out these 2 that were just in my stash. And then, because I was finished with this, I picked up another of these kits that I get from Polar Fabrics over in Indiana. That has the 5 1-yard cuts, and then you get a pattern with it. And I picked out this, what is this called? This boxed in pattern. And I have these fabrics. Let me pull some of it out. And those are the fabric that goes around it for those boxes. And then I'm starting to make some strip sets. Got them pinned together. And yes, I know you don't necessarily have to pin strip sets together, but I do. I just like to. I know, it's kind of silly, but it's okay. It's my quilt. All right. So, I started working on that. And I have another half pack quilt I started. And this pattern I picked out was Candy Lane. And these are 5 half-yard bundles that you get at the quilt shops. Then you pick out a pattern. So this is the pattern. What it will go like. Simple, easy. And here's some of the fabrics I have. I have these pinned together to make some half square triangles. Those fabrics. And some more fabrics. Of course, you're seeing the backs. Let's turn it so you can see the fronts. Which will be that fabric. So I got all those cut out, ready to go. And there's one more fabric that was in here. And then there's this fabric. And I also had, because this does not include the binding and these patterns, but that's okay. I had this fabric that I'd found on a shop hop. That's with the same line. So I got this out to do the binding. So I cut that out and started getting that all together, ready to go to the sewing machine. And then I worked on my paper piecing project. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. So I worked on this summer solstice paper piecing, foundation paper piecing pattern. Now I thought I was going to be able to finish it. No, didn't happen. So previously I'd basically done everything in this square. That's all done. So all I have to do are these 4 corners. Now these 4 corners within it, they have 6 different foundation paper pieces in it, and they're all big. And let me tell you, I got all of the pieces cut out for those corners, and just cutting it out took a while, just for the corners. But I worked on that. So, and this is done in 4 quadrants, is how you put this together. And these corners, like I said, just these corners have 6 different pieces in it. So what I had done previously was one of these. And it's big, because this is like a 99 by 99. I know, it's hard to show. But I had all of those sewn together. So basically, I need to add the corner up here to the top of each of these 4 quadrants. So, I managed to get D1 because this is section D up here, and like I said, there's 6 different parts, so I got D1 put together. So I got 4 of the D1s all put together and trimmed. And this took quite a bit of time. So the D2, D3, and D4 sections are just as big, and then the D5 and D6 sections aren't as big, but then I can sew them all together, add them to the 4 quadrants that we already have, and sew it together. However, that's still going to take me some time. And finally, the last thing I worked on piecing was these December Cotton Cuts gnomes. Now, I just pieced these last night, so I still have to edit those videos and upload them, which I'll be releasing this week, but I did get the boy and the girl gnome done, and we'll show you. So here's the December boy gnome. And the December girl gnome. All right, so I have to do the 2 accent blocks and then put it together in a quilt top and quilt it and bind it. And then once I get the Decembers done, I can do a trunk show of all 12 months of the gnomes. So I'm in a hurry to get that done. Okay, so I think that's it as far as my quilting projects. Now we'll go on to my cross stitch. So this is the cross stitch project I've been working on. Words to Live By, and it's a 13-part series. Now I know last time I'd shown this, I may have shown you that this was done, but I've got quite a lot done on this. I've got all the framework done, and I have this all done. This one, I think I'm working on this one. So this one's done, Follow Your Dreams. And then up here, when it rains, look for rainbows. When it's dark, look for stars. Nothing worth having comes easy. Success usually comes to those too busy to look for it. To be looking for it. And this is If You Can Dream, You Can Do It. And then I came over here and I did this one, which is Act as If What You Do Makes a Difference. It does. And I'm working on Don't Count the Days, Make the Days Count. So let me show you. There it is. And there's all all the framework. Now, since I have all that framework done, it's just a matter of filling in these little bitty sections, these little bitty cards. So that shouldn't take too much longer. All right, so that's what I'm working on. Now, this was done on 14 count Aida, so it's a big piece of 14 count Aida, and I'm just using DMC. Now, my yarny goodness, let me show you what all I've done. Now, last time I showed you anything I was working on with yarn related, I was working on this baby blanket right here, and that was because I knew this was something quick and simple that I could do with knitting. When it comes to knitting, I am only a beginner knitter. Now, granted, I started knitting, I don't know, a long time ago, but it's been 10 years since I had knitted anything, so I wanted to start off with something easy, and I knew that baby blanket was. Well, I have finished that baby blanket. It is all done. And the reason I did that was because there was this hat that I'd wanted to do. Now, this hat's pattern, there it is. This is the hat. Now, I had picked this up, it's been about over a year ago because it was the Christmas before last. We had went to a yarn knitting shop, and I found this bundle of yarn that I really liked the colors. Well, with that came this free hat pattern. So I really wanted to do this. However, it's been off on the back burner, and I was kind of scared about doing it because it's been a while since I did any knitting. So I did that baby blanket just as a quick reminder of how to knit. So I did finish this hat, and let me show you. And here's my hat. It's all done. Now, this hat, it is a bit snug, but it works. I can get it on. There it is. Now, because this hat was a bit snug, I decided, well, I'm going to use some bigger needles, kind of use the same pattern, and make another hat with the leftover yarn that I had. So, I made this hat. It's definitely bigger. So I made that. Then, what else did I make? That was it as far as knitting, but I've crocheting some things. And I worked on the Glacier Park socks. Now, this was this was a subscription box that I used to get from Luther Co. And now it's my understanding that they no longer even have this Hooked on Socks subscription box. But I usually do the medium socks, and I can get 2 pair of socks out. So there's one pair. And there's the other pair of socks. So I did that. And those are all done. So I started working on another cardigan here. And this is the Gracie Slouchy Cardigan. And this is from a crochet magazine, the Autumn 2022 edition. So I'm using this chenille yarn, Let's Get Cozy chenille peel. And this is where I'm at. I'm working on that back panel. Now, I will say, because this is a chenille yarn, when I first got started, I had a little trouble seeing the stitches down here at the bottom. But now that I've got a good start on it, we're doing good. So that's where I'm working on that. Oh my goodness, we are at 25 minutes almost already. And I've got one more thing to show you. And I also finished this diamond painting from Craftedly. This is Christmas diamond painting, the tree farm. And this is all done. Alright, so that's everything that I've been working on for the past couple weeks. So like I said, I have set that goal for myself this year to try and get 50 quilts quilted. Who knows what'll happen? We'll see. But did you guys make any goals for this year? Let me know in the comments down below. Alright, till next time. Bye!